Hey, what's going on guys? Andrew Silver here, and today I wanted to go over and discuss the latest patch notes for MVCI coming on December 5th. This will be the patch just before Capcom Cup and the Battle for the Stones tournament, and there are some pretty huge changes. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Go ahead and jump straight into the patch. Hopefully you guys can see everything. I'll make it larger. And just kicking us off, we have general changes, reality stone surge, increased startup from 8 frames to 20 frames, decreased active frames from 120 frames to 90 frames, increased projectile speed, projectile now disappears if player is hit, lengthened time needed for projectile to start homing, and gradually reduced hit, stun and block from startup, a maximum of 12 frames to a minimum of 6. So I'm guessing that's got to do with the duration of how far it's traveled. If it's right next to you, it's 12 frames, and if it's furthest away, it's 6. And it's also been made easier to reflective advance and guard immediately after startup. So a lot of changes to Reality Stone, some huge nerfs and much needed nerfs. The increased startup makes it a lot harder to pull this out in neutral. It's going to be a lot weaker overall. Decreased active frames from 120 to 90 means it's not going to travel anywhere near as far. That's a whole 30 frames, so I think that's like at least a quarter of the screen not traveled. And increased projectile speed, so you're not going to be stuck in proximity guard for as long whilst you're waiting to block reality stone surge. So it's just way more attackable, and the best of the best, the projectile now disappears if the player is hit, so you can't just use this super defensively. You actually have to space it properly. You have to be cautious about where you're putting it out. You probably have to cover it with other projectiles as well, so you have to be much smarter, and it's a lot harder to use, and essentially a lot shitter as well. Then they've got a new change. You can roll forwards and backwards after crumpling, and Crumple, a unique form of knockdown that affects a character upon landing on the ground after being hit by certain air moves, i.e. Hadouken. Space Infinity Storms getting nerfed as well. Decreased duration when activated at 50% from 10 seconds to 8 seconds, and decreased duration when activated at 100% from 20 seconds to 16 seconds. So you're losing 2 seconds, which is probably like 4 Marvel seconds, from the 50% Infinite Storm activation, and you're losing 4 seconds, which is like 8 or 9 Marvel seconds, from the actual 100% activation. So you're probably better off using the 50% activation, since you get more out of it now, like in comparison to losing the entire 4 seconds from the 100% activation. It's still going to be fairly strong. I don't see this as that huge of a nerf, but it's still a little bit easier to play around, which is very welcome. Next we have a bug fix causing the minimum value to become 16 when damage scaling etc. causes the anti-recovery value to be reduced to 0. And then another bug fix issues where combos become easier after damage scaling is maxed out. So both of these have to do with hit stun deterioration glitch, or the HSD glitch. Together they remove it, so I'm assuming you're more likely to flip out. And when the minimum value of damage scaling becomes 16, the anti-recovery value will no longer be 0. So you'll flip out of long extended combos more frequently, which means people have to shorten their combos and have better resets, and definitely HSD is gone. Another one, when piercing projectile specials are cancelled out, their hitboxes now remain, but opponents are not affected by hit stun, and the exceptions are Arthur wearing golden armor, using the short sword, spear, torch, boomerang, axe, Chris when he uses the magnum shot or the magnum, and Thor's Mjolnir. This mainly affects Gamora. I believe it does affect other special moves like bolts of Balfat, but since it specifically noted that Arthur's golden armor specials, Mjolnir and Magnum won't be affected, this is mainly aimed at Gamora. Now the way I understand it, if you perfect push block, you cancel out the special, but you no longer are in hit stun. I believe it might happen when clashing with beams, although I don't really see how that would be an issue. This generally seems to refer to perfect push blocking, but it's not all that clear. And then they go ahead to mention change advancing guard so that if a player is in block animation continuously for 300 frames from the first blocked hit, using advancing guard on a projectile will push the opponent away. This has got to do with beam supers. When you're locked down by a beam super, essentially after 300 frames you'll be able to push block your opponent, so this should make using beam supers for mix-ups a little more easy to deal with. It doesn't affect Rocket Raccoon, it doesn't affect Jeddah, so those two are pretty much safe, but it generally affects if you're using beam supers for your set play. This is gonna not be as effective. Now it doesn't mention rush supers, so Nemesis's level 1 punch rush and Hager's punch rush should still be fine. This is specifically beams. Then off the ground attack, relaunch attacks. Change so that OTG relaunch attacks that ignore the opponent's knockdown state and damage them as if they are standing, are limited to twice within a single combo, excluding hyper combos. Affected moves are Dante Volcano, Drive, Thanos Titan Charge, Heavy Punch, Jeddah, Turbine Delira, Light Kick and Heavy Kick versions, Captain America's Trick Shield, Strider Hero's Formation B Shoot. Frank's How to Use, the Heavy Punch version, includes the aerial version as well. Zero, Hyorit Suzan, Nova's Nova Punch, Spencer's Bionic Bomber, Light Kick and Heavy Kick versions, Dormammu's Purifications, all of them, and Arthur's Torch. This mainly affects Dante, so you can't do Skydance loops anymore, you can't do double drive combos anymore, you might not be able to do double revolver combos either, but yeah, he generally just loses a bunch of combos here, so that's mainly at Dante. Strider as well loses gram loops from this alone, but they have more on that later. So those were specifically affected. Zero, you might have people falling out of your combos at earlier stages if you use re-engine quite early on into Hyorit Suzan that uses up your OTG. So I think maybe if you do the wall bounce off the Buster, you won't be able to follow that up anymore. So there's a couple of characters losing combos, but it's mainly Dante. He's going to lose quite a few combos here. And then they made the input buffer for normal moves possible during post mid-air recovery. You can basically press a button when coming down from a recovery state. And then they changed the minimum value of gravity for air block on whiff to match that of falling from a normal jump. So once again, this has got to do with beam supers. If you're blocking them, you will fall down in the same way that you would from a normal jump, rather than being rushed straight back down to the ground, which should prevent you getting mixed up as often. Then they changed the jump count so that it's not reset after a wall jump, and this affects Chun-Li and Strider Hiryu. Basically, using a wall jump uses up one of your jumps now, so Strider can't double jump after wall jumping, and Chun-Li can't triple jump or double jump and air dash after wall jump, so it makes it a little bit harder for them to escape the corner. Fixed a bug that caused the Shadow's hitbox to remain for the duration of the hit stun if the character takes damage with long hit stun while using a shadow attack. Also fixed bug that caused the Shadow to put out an incorrect hitbox when hit by an opponent's throw or attack throw while the Shadow is activated, and the affected characters are Gamora and Zero. So I've never seen this happen, but I'm assuming this has got to do if you're hit by like a super or something, the Shadow would come and interrupt the super later on. It's somewhat a nerf, and they should be easier to combo after you throw them or hit throw them as well. You won't have a wonky hitbox there. So a little bit of a nerf. It hit Zero more than Gamora, because her Shadow acts a lot faster than his, but it's still somewhat of a nerf. Then fix a bug that caused certain characters to go off screen when performing wall killing while captured by the space stone and the opponent retreats to the opposite wall. Sounds weird as hell, but basically that will no longer happen with Firebrand and Black Panther. Fix a bug that caused background music to stop when too many special effects overlap. Fix a bug that caused matches to end in a draw regardless of actual result when fight request is on in training mode and a shortcut is used to restart during the frames before, but here comes a new challenger message appears. So that's weird. I've seen a few bugs with that actually, but I've never seen this bug, so pretty good that it's gone. The next one's pretty huge as well. Made it easier for players ranked 5th and above to match with other players. Now this is actually horrible. I think it means that if you're ranked 5th or above, you're going to be matched against more low level people if they can't find anyone around your rank. So you could be 5th rank potentially running into like 12th rank, 11th rank, 10th rank players, where you get no points for winning. You're going to lose a bunch if you happen to lose, or because the matchmaking on the game isn't that great, but you should find more matches, so there's always that. When an opponent has been hit by 3 special grab projectiles in a single combo, they will automatically be affected by a spiral hit stun, causing them to be invincible and sent into the air. Affected characters: Spiderman with all web ball versions and Frankwest with hammer throw, light kick and heavy kick versions. So you can only use these specials twice in a combo, the 3rd time will cause your opponent to flip out. This might affect some Spider-Man BNBs. I've never really seen anybody use 3 of them, but I'm assuming this is also to prevent there being another potential Spider-Man Infinite in the game, which I'm sure a lot of people will welcome. So there's always that. That's pretty something. It's okay, I guess. And then finally, for the general bug fixes and changes, they fixed a bug that allowed such combos to be continued by hitting the opponent with attack throws. Example, Jedda's Sanguine Sacrificiale. I don't actually know whether that's actually directed at Jeddah or if that's another one aimed at Dante, preventing you from doing crazy dance loops in the corner. Not a lot of people use them, but it is available. This seems like it's more to do with that, but we'll have to see. It might mean Jeddah might not be able to combo off the Sanguine Sacrificiale, but I don't believe that will be the case since it's his hard knockdown. We'll have to find out. But yeah, that's it for the general game changes. Quite a significant nerf to Reality Stone, a small nerf to Space Stone. Lots of changes to OTGs, and the piercing projectiles is pretty huge as well. So mainly Gamora and Dante are hit by the general changes, as well as anybody who uses Reality Stone. So Reality Stone's far less attractive. You're more likely to get hit during startup. It travels faster, so it's easier to deal with. You can just kind of run in, block it, get rid of it. Then it's also active for less. Like, just huge nerfs that were generally needed. The OTG, definitely Dante's losing quite a few combos. Strider and Chun-Li can't jump over anymore, so it's pretty big. And then this is fairly important because 5th rank players, watch out, you will be matched with more lower rank players. Anyway, that's it for the general changes. Stay tuned for part 2.